haunting my home. A ghostly man stepped from my wall each night, smiled, and vanished. No one believed me at first. This was about 10 years ago. When I was around 6, my parents and I lived in a new house. It was one of the first built in the neighborhood. When we moved in, nothing seemed too strange. We would always feel that something was watching us, but thought nothing of it. I was afraid to sleep in my own bed, so I slept in my parents' bedroom. On the first night in the house, nothing happened. I did have nightmares that something was at the foot of the bed, and that really creeped me out. The next night, something really different happened. I was lying on the bed, wide awake, because I couldn't sleep. I rolled over on my left side, facing the bathroom that connected to the bedroom. The door was open. Suddenly, the wall just opened. I don't scream when I am scared. I hold my breath. A man in ratty, old-fashioned looking clothes stepped through. He walked to the side of the bed, stopped, smiled at me, and walked out the bedroom door that led to the living room. I could not move for at least 5 minutes. Then I woke my parents and told them what I saw. Of course, they did not believe me. This continued every night. Once I tried to wake my parents while this person was still in the room, but they would not wake. Eventually, they started to realize that I wasn't making this up or dreaming it. Even though the ghost scared me, he seemed really nice. He always smiled at me before he walked out of the room. He never appeared to my parents. Seeing this ghost has made me a true believer. Haunted objects. Thrifted vase brought shadows and flickering lights. Gave it away activity stopped. I wanted to tell you a story. True. I recently went to our local Salvation Army just to look around. It was an ordinary summer day in Florida. There were a few people in the store as well. I was looking at the glass items, the typical flower vases from your typical florist, on sale for $75. When I looked behind some of them and spotted a beautiful crystal 20 vase. I reached for it. It was very heavy and still had the label on the bottom of Mikasa, 100% Australian crystal for $5. I was thrilled. Thought I found the deal of the day. The next day, the vase was in the kitchen with me, and my daughter was in her room. I thought I saw someone walk behind me. The shadow catches your eye thing? So I turned to see. Of course, nothing. My little chihuahua started barking right where I thought I saw the shadow. Then, the cable on the TV blinked out, and the power flickered on and off. Not just the lights, but the entire power to the house. I thought it to be strange. That was a Saturday. We stayed away from our house that night. On returning Sunday, my whitening trays for my teeth were laying in the middle of the hallway with their protective tray still in the bathroom, where they all should have been. That night, my daughter heard noises like something falling off a shelf in the bathroom. And when I woke the next day, a light was on in a room I know I didn't even go into. Needless to say, I gave the vase away, and all is now quiet. So for those who think objects cannot be haunted, I know firsthand they can. Surrey true story. At 6, I woke in a locked, dark room scared and sensing something evil. It stopped after removing a creepy picture. I thought I would describe what happened to me when I was 6 years old in 1986. I lived at home with my mom and my older sister, being brought up by a single parent. My mom went out to work often, and I used to be babysat by my older sister. I had to be in bed by 7 p.m. and had to always sleep with the light on, with the door open. I always sensed something in my bedroom and hated the door being closed and the light off. I always insisted it stay on. I used to have a story read to me by either my sister or mom, get tucked in and left to sleep with the hall light on and the door wide open. The door had a lock on it from the inside, high up, which I could not reach. The same with the light switch. I went to sleep and suddenly woke up sweating. My door was firmly shut and I was in the pitch black. I was obviously very scared, and even more so as I felt my way in the dark to my door and realized it was locked from the inside. No one was in my room, living anyway. I started to cry and felt very, very uncomfortable and scared. I was crying and hyperventilating while I banged on the door and screamed for help. I felt another presence in my room, and it was not a good presence. I don't know why I thought that, but I just knew. I heard my sister running upstairs, then trying to open my door. Her boyfriend also came up and tried. I had to resort to turning my toy basket upside down, climbing on top of it, and turning on the light, to which I was relieved. I could see, and then was just able to reach the door latch and unlock the door. I lived in a 3-bed terraced council house in Lingfield, Surrey. Not an old property, but nevertheless still scary for me as a child. My mom still lives at the same house, and when I sometimes visit or stay during holiday season, the house has a peaceful atmosphere. I honestly think it's my level of senses as a child that made me connect more easily to a spirit. I have sensed some things before, but not to that extent. This may sound odd, and be good to have feedback on this theory, but in my room was a picture of a red Indian owned by my father. I hated the picture, sensing a presence within it, when I complained of it at a young age, saying, "I think it's haunted." It was moved to another room. I still felt a presence in the house, until eventually my dad visited and took it away for storage. Since that moment, the house was back to normal. I also witnessed light movement on the walls of my mom's bedroom hall when I had to share her room for months due to being so scared after my lock-in incident. The light was small and took shape of what appeared to be angels in gowns, one walking over to the other and kneeling in front of one of them. I always have believed in science and am not easily misled or gullible, but I have never been able to satisfactorily explain the experiences I had as a child on several occasions. It would be interesting to have feedback or views on this. Haunted house. Sharon's home felt eerie. Something unseen sat beneath her and followed guests. Was it haunted? My name is Sharon, and the most haunted house I've ever lived in was in Cartwright, New South Wales. Many ghostly events occurred here during our 4-year stay there. I remember on one occasion, I went to sit down on the lounge chair, only to feel like I sat on someone's lap. Whoever it was I sat on did not want me to leave, as it felt like I was being forced to stay there. I could not seem to get out of the chair. On another occasion, I went to the pantry and the kitchen and opened the door to get ingredients out to make a cake. The door only opened halfway, then stopped abruptly. I couldn't figure out why, so I closed the door slowly and reopened it slowly, only to find it opened all the way this time. I got on the phone to my friend who is psychic and told her my experience, and she quickly solved the mystery. A deceased friend of my husband's who died only a week before was standing there when I opened the pantry door and smacked him in the face with the door. Oops. More confirmation of the haunted house. Whenever we went up to visit my parents for the weekend, I would leave the key of the house with my aunt, who would come in and feed our cat. She vowed and declared she would not do it again, as she had the sensation of someone following her throughout the house while she was there. She said she felt uncomfortable and threatened and would not be there on her own again. Disembodied voice. 2 kids recorded a song, then heard a ghostly voice say, "Turn that radio down." They heard a disembodied voice coming through. Back in the 1980s, I couldn't have been any older than 7, which means my brother was 11. My brother and I made common practice of pretending to be DJs by recording our favorite songs from the radio onto tapes. This was before CDs and LimeWire, mind you. Now, many people may recall that radios from that era lacked the dubbing option, which allows one to record without picking up noises in the room. He and I would sit barely breathing, just to ensure that our favorite songs didn't have any mistakes when we played them back. We were doing this one day, and luckily our noisy sisters were gone, and our mother was asleep with the flu, leaving only him and me alone in the house. I can still recall the song we had just recorded, Just My Fantasy, by the 1980s R&B group, Guy. The DJ ended the song abruptly, and my brother, always a perfectionist, decided that we should remove it from the tape because it wasn't the version with the extended music that we had hoped for. I really liked the song, so I begged him to play it back one more time before recording over it, and when he did, I nearly peed my pants. There was a deep, angry male voice saying to us over and over, "Turn that damn radio down." And sometimes, "Turn the radio down now, boy." We woke my mother and played it for her, but she was not convinced that he and I had not disguised our prepubescent voices just to play a prank on her. She ripped the tape up in anger, frustrated that we would wake her from her sick bed just to amuse ourselves. Part of me wanted so badly to convince myself that it had been a joke, and that maybe he had found some way to scare his kid brother, but logic prevailed. I had been sitting there beside him, holding my breath the entire time the song recorded, and neither he nor I heard the voice until we played the tape back. For the duration of our remaining 3 years in that house, I was afraid to go anywhere by myself. People, if you can call them that, were there that could see and hear me, but went unseen by my eyes. As a grown 29-year-old man, I still have trouble sleeping from time to time. When I think about what that incident proved, spirits are around us all the time, watching and listening to us as we go on with our everyday activities. Sometimes they just may be bothered by our routines. Not all visitors from the other side come to scare. Like this video if you believe. Subscribe for more true stories. And tell us your experience in the comments.